Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Happy Friday. We made it through 5 days, folks. I will call the joint meeting of Senate Finance Committee and Assembly Ways and Means to order. Will the committee secretary please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Anderson. Present. Assemblywoman Backus. Present. Assemblywoman Brown May. Here. Assemblywoman Dickman. Here. Assemblywoman Gorlow. Assemblyman Hafen. Here. Assemblywoman Howdigi. Here. Assemblywoman Kasama. Here. Assemblyman Miller. Present. Assemblyman O'Neill. Here. Assemblywoman Peters. Here. Assemblyman Watts. Assemblyman Yeager, here. Senator Cannizzaro, Senator Goycochea,
here.
Senator Harris, here. Senator Neal, here. Senator Wynn, here. Senator Severs-Gansert, and Senator Titus, here. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, here. And Chair Dondero Loop.
Here. Thank you very much. Please mark those present as they arrive. Thank you very much. We will be moving on to the first item on our agenda today, which is a budget presentation from the Treasurer's Office. And joining us is Treasurer Conine and his team, and we are happy to have you. And you will be presenting 4 budgets, I believe, and those budget accounts 101 and 1080. State Treasurer Budget Account 101, 1092, the Nevada College Savings Trust Budget Account 603, 1081, Higher Education Tuition Administration and Budget Account 101, 3815, Unclaimed Property. Treasurer Conine, please begin.
Thank you, Chair and committee members, for this opportunity to present the State Treasurer's Office 2024 and 2025 biennium budget. My name is Zach Conine. I have the pleasure of being your Nevada State Treasurer. I'm joined today by all of our deputies, and so I want to take a moment to introduce them just so you have some idea of who makes the magic work. To my right is our Chief Deputy Treasurer, Lori Hoover. And then also behind us, we've got Jeff Landerfelt, our Deputy Treasurer of Debt Management. I'll ask them all to wave strangely. Tammy Simpson, our Deputy Treasurer of Cash Management. Eric Jimenez, our Chief Policy Deputy. Down in Las Vegas, we've got Kirsten Van Rye, our Chief of Staff. Stephen Hale, our Deputy Treasurer of Investments. Dr. Tia Mathis-Coleman, our Deputy Treasurer of College Savings. And Danielle Anthony, our Deputy Treasurer of Unclaimed Property. Also not with us today is Amber Law, our Senior Deputy for Operations, and this will be Amber's last budget. She's leaving us to head over to Health, and so we wish her the best. The Office of the State Treasurer was created in 1864 under Article 5, Section 19 of the Constitution of the State of Nevada. We've divided the office into 6 functional areas: administration, cash management, debt management, investments, college savings programs, and unclaimed property. The general responsibilities of the office include $10 billion, investing all the state funds, which include but are not limited to the general portfolio, the local government investment pool, Nevada prepaid tuition, and the permanent school fund. $75 million, the state's private equity program, the Nevada Capital Investment Corporation. $1.9 billion, all of our debt issued and authorized by in behalf of the name of the state. $1 billion, our unclaimed property program. $37.5 billion, our college savings programs. Just a quick mention, we are the 37th or so state by population. We're the 3rd largest state from college savings programs. $2.1 billion, the state's pooled collateral program. The State Treasurer also serves as one of 5 members of the State Board of Finance and the Executive Branch Audit Committee, Chair of the College Savings Board of Trustees, which oversees the 529 savings plans and the Nevada Prepaid College Tuition Program and Trust Fund, the Chair of the Nevada Capital Investment Corporation, and the Chair of the Nevada State Infrastructure Bank Board of Directors. We are funded primarily through assessments and trust fund transfers. The Treasurer's Office operates through 9 separate budget accounts, which are in the deck. I could certainly read through them if anyone would like, but it's a bunch of numbers. And at the request of LCB fiscal staff, we'll be discussing 4 of those budget accounts, specifically focusing on the enhancements within the governor's recommended budget. Budget account 1080, which is the state treasurer's administrative account. 1081, the Higher Education Tuition Trust. 1092, the College Savings Trust, and 3815, which is unclaimed property. Moving on to budget account 1080 is the operating account for cash management, merchant services, debt management, and the investment divisions, as well as administrative costs for the State Treasurer's Office. Funding for budget account 1080 allows the State Treasurer's Office to manage financial transactions conducted on behalf of state agencies and local governments. That includes operations and administration. That would be the day-to-day operations for our 22 budget accounts, submittal of the biennium budget, requests for 9 budget accounts, human resources, IT, travel management, contract and purchasing management, as well as the administration and disbursement of the annual tobacco master settlement agreement. Cash management. Pursuant to NRS 226-110, the State Treasurer is responsible for the receipt and disbursement of public monies. In addition to the main depository and controlled disbursement accounts, the Treasurer's Office has 52 bank accounts under analysis, most of those accounts being zero balance accounts. In other words, when money goes into them at the end of the day, it goes out. As manager of the state's electronic payment acceptance program, Merchant Services, Cash Management maintains over 320 merchant accounts for 56 state agencies. In investments, the State Treasurer is responsible for the investment of public monies. The investment division is responsible for all investment and accounting activities relating to the general portfolio, the local government investment pool, or LGIP, the permanent school fund, or PSF, the higher education tuition trust fund, we do not have an acronym there, as well as oversight of the NVEST investment advisors. And in debt management, our debt management division is responsible for the issuance of debt obligations authorized on behalf of and in the name of the state, with limited exceptions, as well as the organization and facilitation of statewide pooled financing programs. State Treasurer is responsible for the issuance and maintenance of the following types of general obligation debt: capital improvement bonds, municipal bond bank bonds, state revolving fund bonds, historic preservation bonds, natural resources bonds, university system bonds, and other miscellaneous GO bonds and securities. Moving on to the budget enhancements. E125, our first budget enhancement, provides needed training for our 2 IT professional staff. We're requesting additional training for our IT staff in fiscal year 24 and 25, so we can utilize the state's master service agreement with SHI to have unlimited access to courses in IT-related fields that apply to the skills needed to serve the Treasurer's Office and its various programs. And Chair, would you like me to just walk through these and then take questions by budget account, or? Thank you. E126, our second budget enhancement, adds a new account technician position 1 for cash management. Electronic banking transactions have increased 23% since 2019, an additional 1.4 million transactions annually, and we have not added a person. This position is critical in providing necessary support, assisting state agencies in claiming and reconciling incoming funds. This position will also assist with the ERP migration and provide agency services. E127 adds a new Accountant 2 position for the investment division. This position will complete all the accounting-related work on the investment portfolios, primarily required accounting statements and reconciliations and interest distributions to other executive agencies. This position will also be the primary client and agency interface for the LGIP portfolio, working with the counties, school districts, et cetera, who use LGIP to manage their money. And the position will allow the existing investment analysts to focus on increasingly vital investment activities: investing, monitoring, analytics, and credit research. So just to back up a little bit about what the investments division does, when I became treasurer, we had approximately $2.8 billion under management. We currently have about $9.2 billion under management with the same size team. That's great, we've been efficient at it, but we need to add some resources there. One of the things we're trying to do is move the investments team away from its historic functionality, which has really been an accounting process, right? How do we make sure that we have enough money to pay the bills on day X? And starting to move it into a how to create as much opportunity and return for Nevadans as possible. That's shown in our investment performance, which is great. But the other thing that we have historically done is we have the same individuals who are doing the investment work also doing the reconciliation work. And there's a lot of reasons why that's not a great idea, and I'm happy to go through them. But this position would basically allow us to bifurcate those functionalities and make sure that the investors can focus on investing and the accountants can focus on accounting. E128, our fourth budget enhancement, adds a new investment analyst position for the investment division. And this position gets to that last thing, right? We've had 3 people doing this work for quite some time. We're adding a 4th as our assets under management have basically increased by more than 3 times. allow a higher level of portfolio investment activities and support, including monitoring, analytics, credit research, and back office that is more commensurate with the size of the portfolio. And the next two budget enhancements, E805 works in tandem with E128, and that reclassifies our investment analysts to the unclassified service. E805 is not included in the governor's recommended budget. However, in conversations with the governor's office post the recommended budget coming out, we don't think they're going to be too upset about this one. Our goal here is to take our investment analysts, which are currently classified positions, and make them unclassified positions. These are individuals responsible for managing hundreds of millions of dollars, and the work can change dramatically day to day as market conditions change. This unclassified status will, A, allow us to pay them more commensurate to the size of the money that they're managing and the risk associated with it, but more, or at least as importantly, will allow us to be flexible with the work. If the opportunity is over here, we want to make sure we go there as opposed to worrying about a misclassification. E129, our next budget enhancement, provides state-owned rent space for the new positions. That's kind of a mechanical one. And then E225, our last budget enhancement in this category, requests subscription to Moody's, S&P Global, and 3 subscription licenses to a program called Tableau. Collectively, the Treasurer's Office manages more than $10 billion of assets across 4 different investment vehicles. In order to enhance the division's ability to evaluate and manage credit risks, quick access to the thorough and timely investment reports from major credit rating agencies, Moody's, S&P Global, Fitch, etc., is essential. Currently, only a small portion of the $10 billion assets under management has direct access to this research, primarily through our external managers. In other words, when we want a piece of research from these companies, we have to ask a broker who is trying to sell us something for that research. Now, it's pretty typical in the investment field, but not only does it slow it down, but it also creates an obligation, right? Not a contractual obligation, but just sort of a relationship obligation to use that broker going forward. These services, completely reasonable given the size of the portfolio, would allow us to do that research directly and stops us from being beholden to anyone else. Those are the budget enhancements in budget account 1081. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I believe we'll start with Assemblywoman Hadaki. Is that right? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nice to see you, Treasurer. I have questions regarding it's E127 and E128. So if the new positions are recommended for the investment division, and if they're approved, how much savings are you anticipating?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, I would look at it less from a savings possibility and more from an opportunity cost possibility. So we currently use outside managers to manage some of these portfolios. We think we could likely take that outside manager cost back in, which would save us a couple of % on those assets under management, millions of dollars a year. But I don't know that we would stop using outside managers. I think we would use outside managers to do more esoteric work on the outside of the portfolio. So the opportunity here is to pick up additional investment returns. And then, the other pieces, obviously, our job is about sort of step 1, not losing money, step 2, not losing money, step 3, making sure that we have the liquidity required to pay bills, and then as a deep step 4, making money from the portfolio. These individuals would make sure that the first 3 things absolutely happen. And given the increase in the size of the portfolios, more money is in the state, it just becomes harder for a smaller group of people to do that work.
Follow up? Yes, please. Okay, thank you. And I just have one more question in that same decision unit as well. So can you explain to us if a new unclassified investment analyst position is needed, why they're needed for the investment division, and whether maintaining the 3 existing investment analyst positions in the classified service would provide the division with the support that you need to do your work?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, thank you for the question. If I'm understanding it correctly, our goal is to take all of the investment analysts and make them unclassified, which would allow the flexibility for them to move portfolio to portfolio as necessary. It is not just the addition, it's the addition of a human, right, and the addition of flexibility with the existing humans.
I just want to clarify. So then the 3 existing classified would be moved into an unclassified position. Okay, thank you, Treasurer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. I believe Assemblywoman Gorlow, did you have a question? Oh, I must have, whose hand did I see? Go, I'm sorry, Assemblywoman Peters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We get confused frequently, Assemblywoman Gorlow and myself. We look very similar. My question has to do with the new account. Wait, we haven't moved on to the next budget item, have we? This week has been very long. Mine has to do with E126. Did we cover that one? Yes. Okay. Sorry. I thought. Can you confirm whether this accountant technician position would be necessary to begin in October, given the delays with the Smart 21 transition, under which it's partially justified?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, we could have used that account technician in around 2017. So I think each year that we move farther on, the amount of work on a limited group of people continues to increase. Now, the ERP transition, whether it's Smart 21 or Smart 23 or Smart 38, by the time we get there, the ERP work is an additional burden on that staff because they need to do their existing work while at the same point implementing and initiating and doing that sort of transfer, which, as you know, is a deeply complicated process. So regardless of the ERP, an increase in 1.4 million transactions, 23% since 2019, is the majority of the justification for the work.
Thank you very much. And Assemblywoman Kasama.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Treasurer. My question is, when you're talking about these investment analysts, and we're looking at, I believe it was 150 or 160,000 something for their positions. In the market, the really good investment analysts are probably getting 400,000, 500,000, getting bonuses on that. And so how do you see that versus continuing to work with the outside investment advisors that you've been using? How do you honestly see that that's going to help? Because I think you'll have trouble attracting people to that position, which we've heard from all agencies, no matter what category. Pay is an issue, but I don't think we could afford the pay that the really good investment analysts out in the market are getting.
Treasurer Conine, for the record, and thank you for the question because you are correct, right? In all state agencies, we're having trouble recruiting individuals at, frankly, the skill level we need. In the Treasury, we have a sub 10% vacancy rate for a number of reasons, so we don't necessarily have that problem in our shop. But the investment analysts that we have found in a lot of ways are learning this job in a state circumstance, which is a lot different than the private market circumstance, right? They are less interested on yield day to day. They're less quarter focused. They are more generationally focused. And so it's a different type of person. That helps. The other functionality is just, frankly, the individuals who serve in the state service, all of us, every deputy behind me, isn't doing it just for the paycheck. But we need to make sure that the paycheck is at least close enough so that their sense of public duty plus the paycheck can give them the life that they want. And so our goal here is we don't expect we will stop using outside managers. We expect we will continue using outside managers, but for things that are harder, right? In the past, the state treasury has only done for the most part, treasury work, right? So we're buying paper from the U.S. government, investing in those bonds, getting the payback. There is so much more opportunity out there, and we can take a lot of it. It's relatively low-hanging fruit, and then we'll use the outside managers to get that higher-hanging fruit that's a little harder, right? And where we want to make sure we've got a shop of 30 or 40 people behind. I think if you looked at our investment division compared to the investment division of almost any other state, you'll find that we're a fraction of the people at a multiple of the return.
Follow-up, Chair, if I may?
Go ahead, please.
So the other question I have, in general, unless I've missed it, I know we're still continuing with some of this. What is the general allocation, the big picture allocation of our investments as far as from a risk standpoint? How much of it is treasury bonds? How much are you putting into other areas that are a little bit more risky? What's the allocation?
Appreciate that question. And broadly, and we can give you portfolio information as it changes day to day. But a vast majority, I think this is important for everyone to know, the general portfolio has no equities in it at all. We have no stock, right? We are completely fixed income. And that's a constitutional prohibition against the state owning equity positions in companies, right? Which has been around since there was a state. And so our focus is on primarily treasuries, agencies, commercial paper, corporate notes of high credit grade. And so our investment policy, which I'm happy to send around, but our investment policy and the statutes that control what we can invest require us to have a very high level of credit rated paper. Now that sometimes means that we aren't taking the returns that we could if we were to chase yield down the curve. But again, as I said, our first responsibility is to not lose money and to make sure that when state bills come due, that we've got the liquidity in order to pay them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question, and thank you, Treasurer Conine, for being here and again, and watching out for the state's investment and making sure it's safe. There's a term in investing called conscientious capitalism, and I know that we have a portfolio and we have outside investors or people monitoring this, and you're looking at an office to kind of help us understand that. But when you talk about our portfolio, you had publicly stated that we weren't going to invest in any firearm companies, and I'm wondering, in that realm of conscientious investing, if we are also making sure we're not investing in tobacco companies, if we're not investing in, say, pharmaceutical companies that have produced these opioid epidemic. And I'm just wondering how, if you define that also, or if it was just one industry, or if I'm hearing that we're not investing in anything like that at all, just like treasury bonds. So could you clarify that for me? Thank you.
Treasurer Conine, for the record, thank you for the question, and I'm trying to answer this in a couple of different parts. So the first thing to sort of understand is when we are buying a bond, when we are buying a security, we are not buying that security directly from the company, right? This is a security that is existing in the marketplace that was issued by a company at some point in the past. And almost in every occasion, we're purchasing it because the yield, the interest that it's paying is what we want, and the time that it is maturing is the thing we want, right? So in the Treasury, we spend a lot of time saying, okay, this bill is due on Friday, and so we want the money to come back to pay that bill on Friday. I don't want it on Thursday. I certainly don't want it on Wednesday, right? So that we can get as much potential return as possible. And so in that sense, we've never invested directly into any company doing anything, right? Constitutionally prohibited. When we divested the state, for anyone who doesn't know, we divested the state from all manufacturers and retailers of assault-style weapons. We did that from a risk potential, right? So when we looked at those bonds compared to other bonds like them, there was additional risk for 10 different reasons, which I'm happy to talk about, but additional risk without additional return. And that's been proven correct, right? The opportunity cost on those bonds was we did better elsewhere, right? And as we look at any piece of the portfolio, we're doing that with a sign towards risk, right? So when we looked at, if we were looking at, say, a bond from Altria, somebody who is in the tobacco manufacturing, we would look at the associated risk of that and make a decision. We determined on the firearm side, the risk was not worth the return, right? But on every other thing, we are looking piece by piece.
Thank you, follow-up, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, please.
So just to be clear, then, the decision was strictly a financial one, and if you see any other company, it didn't matter what it was, you would not invest in it if it was not worth investing in. It seemed like it was singled out publicly, and I'm just curious about tobacco. To me, would be a much, I mean, we spend millions of dollars in the state taking care of causes of tobacco and illnesses that it costs our state. So just wondering from a humanitarian aspect of it, are we investing in any tobacco industries, or do you know?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, when I took over the portfolio, there were some tobacco positions in it. I do not know offhand if we still have any tobacco positions, but we can certainly get you a list and when the last time we owned them was.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the question.
Thank you very much. And we'll finish up with Senator Neal, and then we'll go to the next budget item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just had a quick question on, I guess, other funds that fund the Treasurer's office other than the general fund, because I was noticing in in the back of documents, in 24, other funds increase by like 36%. It goes from 10% in 2023, and then there's a jump to 36%. So what's in other funds?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, I'm not specifically sure what you're referring to in the backup documents. Sorry.
But your budget is made up of general fund, interagency transfer, other fund. What is in other funds? What other revenue is coming into the
Treasurer
office?
Conine, for the record, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Let me see if anyone behind me has that information handy. Senator, if amenable, they're going to take a look for it, and we can certainly come back. If we don't have it,
Okay.
definitely happy to provide it.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, we will go ahead to the next budget account. Nevada College Savings, is that where you are? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you,
please.
Chair. Our next budget account is 1081, the Higher Education Trust Fund. The Nevada Prepaid Tuition Program enables parents, grandparents, and other family members to lock in future in-state college tuition rates at today's prices. Established in 1998, prepaid tuition is one of only 11 prepaid tuition programs in the country. It is fully administered by the College Savings Division and includes the marketing of prepaid tuition, assisting families with enrollment, and coordinating with higher education institutions for the distribution of benefits. Our first budget enhancement requests one new program officer position for the prepaid tuition program. This position will be located in Las Vegas, will provide necessary support to the prepaid tuition program, serve as a navigator for providing more education and outreach to Nevada communities to increase enrollment in the program and help Nevada families save and pay for higher education costs. And then the second budget enhancement is equipment replacement, requesting funds for one laptop and docking station in fiscal year 24, and one laptop and docking station in fiscal year 25 per the EATS recommended replacement schedule.
Okay, that was fast and furious. All right, questions from the committee? Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Quick presentation. So I want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly about the new position, new program officer for the Nevada College Savings Program, E125. They will be mostly in the rural area, and so what other additional benefits and services would be provided to the Nevada families and students through the college savings programs with the addition of a new program officer?
Treasurer Conine, for the record. So this position specifically would be in Las Vegas, but like all of our programs, right, we travel around and chat with people about it. In prepaid college tuition, we have two individuals who've been doing the work for a long time, and they've been doing exceptional. And they actually, the individual who runs the program, Blanca Platt, has been doing it since the program's inception. We need to make sure that we have additional individuals in those positions in order to make sure that the program continues to work. And with prepaid college tuition, for anyone who hasn't used it, you should, first off, it's open enrollment right now. But prepaid college tuition at the end of the process, when a student starts using it, involves a lot of coordination with the school. If they go to UNR or UNLV or College of Southern Nevada or an NSHE institution, that's a relatively easy process. But when they go to a school somewhere else, we are working with the bursar's office, going back and forth. I know I've worked with a number of you on prepaid tuition programs for your kiddos, right? And it's a very hands-on process that takes a lot of time. And as the program and college savings broadly has grown, we need additional resources.
Thank you. So if I'm understanding correctly, this position would also be kind of trying to get in place so that way they can be mentored before the individual that sounds like started the program or has been working on the program since it started can possibly mentor before retirement. Am I understanding that correctly?
Treasurer Conine, certainly one of our initiatives always in our programs is to make sure that they are that they have the resilience to get through individuals coming and going into state service. Now, luckily, we have a team, including the individuals behind me and in Las Vegas, who are dedicated to this work and have been here for a long time. But because I've been told that I can't keep people working forever, we need to have some backups.
Thank you very much. And Vice Chair Monroe Moreno.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I'm not sure if you said it in your presentation, but approximately how many people are participating in the program? And do you believe that if we are able to get this position, that we'll be able to increase the enrollment?
Treasurer Conine for the record, and I'm going to pass it down to the South in just a moment for specific numbers. One of the things we find in prepaid tuition is that enrollment increases or decreases based on what is happening in the market. So if the market is doing well, if the stock market is doing well, prepaid tuition, which is a defined benefit program, you're effectively saying where you want to end up as opposed to what you're going to put in. Prepaid tuition ends up having fewer people because they see what's happening in the market, and so the 529 is more directly correlated to what's going on in the market. In periods of market correction, we see more people coming to prepaid college tuition. But one of the other things that we've really focused the office on is in explaining how prepaid college tuition works, not just for families who can write a check for $26,000 for a 4-year program, but for families who want to or who can start putting in $39 a month into a program. And can I pass it down to Southern Nevada for the current stats?
Please, go ahead.
Kirsten Van Rye, Chief of Staff for the record. Right now, I think there's around, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I think there's around 11,000 active prepaid tuition accounts.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. I think there may be a typo in your presentation. I got to prove that I actually read some of the material. On your E710, you say you want to buy a computer and docking station in 24, and you've got it set for $6,500. You want to buy another one in 25, and it's going to cost you nothing. Is that correct? No. You get a free one? 2 for 1 or what?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, we were actually going to take it from the controller's office, but now that you've, yes, that is a typo, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I like the 2-for-1 deal. All right, any additional questions on this item? Okay, please go ahead.
And Chair, if amenable, we've got an answer for Senator Neal's question.
Please go ahead.
For the record, Lori Hoover, Chief Deputy Treasurer, the Treasurer's Office. The other funds are from agency transfer from the Trust Fund for Healthy Nevada. It's revenue received from a tobacco settlement. And we are authorized by NRS 439.620. And we have payroll allocations coming through that for 5 of our staff members, team members.
Okay. So it's, okay. So it's not fees. It's not fees that are charged to other agencies. Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on to budget account 1088, the Millennium Scholarship Fund. In the Treasury, we always try to provide a little more than necessary, so this morning, for no additional charge, we have a slide describing the budget account 1088, the Millennium Scholarship Fund. Pursuant to NRS 396-911 through 945, State Treasurer acts as the administrator of the Governor Gwynn Millennium Scholarship Program. Established during the 70th legislative session in 1999, the Millennium Scholarship provides scholarships to high-achieving Nevada high schoolers for use at eligible colleges and universities throughout the state. The program is funded with 40% of the money received from the state pursuant to the settlement with manufacturers' tobacco products and $7.6 million transferred for the unclaimed property fund. There are no enhancement units in the governor's recommended budget. There are 2 enhancement units included in one-shot appropriations at a later date, one of those being the $75 million transfer, which should cover the shortfall in the Millennium Scholarship for the next 4 years. I will, again, just because I have the dais for a hot second, remind everyone that Millennium Scholarship is deeply underfunded and is insolvent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions? Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yes, Senator Neal. Thank you.
I couldn't find my mic. Okay.
It's okay to have a delayed response today.
Yeah, it's Friday. The Nevada, it's the program that I was interested in. Oh, we're on 1088. It keeps. Okay.
Treasurer Conine, for the record, yeah, I haven't gone through 1092 just yet. We just move the
Okay.
slide a little quick.
Okay, never mind.
Our first budget account is 1092, the College Savings Trust. The College Savings Division administers a variety of...
Treasurer, can
Yes,
I
Chair.
just, for the information, 1088 was not agendized, and you gave us that information, and I totally appreciate it, because I think it was important. But that may be why we don't have anything in front of us. So thank you very much, and go ahead.
Treasurer Conine, for the record. Sorry about that. Our fourth budget account, is 1092, the College Savings Trust. College Savings Division administers a variety of programs that assist Nevadans in planning for, saving for, and paying for higher education. The division also provides administrative support to the board for the Board of Trustees of the College Savings Plans in Nevada. NRS 353B governs Nevada's college savings program and directs the state treasurer to act as administrator. NRS 353B establishes two different types of college savings programs: Nevada's 529 college savings plans, which again work sort of like 401ks but for college, and Nevada's prepaid college tuition program, which is a defined benefit program. Through the program's outreach and awareness campaigns, the Treasurer's Office strives to achieve a culture of education in Nevada. The division is also responsible for administering the Nevada ABLE accounts, which allow individuals with disabilities to save and earn money without threatening the loss of state and federal benefit programs. The federal Achieving a Better Life Experience Act was signed into law in 2014 and gave states the ability to establish tax-advantaged savings accounts for people with disabilities. Funds deposited into ABLE accounts can be used to help account beneficiaries pay for qualified disability expenses on a tax-free basis and, in turn, help to increase an account holder's overall level of independence. Our first budget enhancement, E125, requests a new program officer for the College Savings Program. This position will be located in Las Vegas and provide necessary support to the College Savings Program to serve as a navigator in providing more education and outreach to Nevada communities, to increase enrollment in the programs, and, as importantly, to help Nevada families plan for and save for college. Now, we saw in, I think, not last budget, but the budget before, we added for the first time a navigator. And the reason we did that was that the population that we had been talking to in previous administrations was very much, how can I avoid paying taxes through a 529? How can I avoid, save money for college in a prepaid college tuition program? As we know, the population of Nevada, not everyone is able to drop that kind of money on a plan. And so we expanded into how can we help more Nevadans achieve higher education, either through existing government programs, right, making sure that we increase FAFSA completion rate, making sure that we are applying for scholarships that are out there, by making sure that individuals know about the Millennium Scholarship, and so if they're going to get it, they start planning for it. It was remarkable how many people, when we started this work, we would talk to that would be in their senior year, and they got a letter saying that they were going to get the Millennium Scholarship, and they had never thought about going to college before because they didn't think they were going to be able to pay for it. And so because of that, right, the earlier you have these conversations, the more effective it is. And this person will allow us to continue having more of those conversations, having those one-on-one, frankly, just family conversations that matter, right? Especially with first-generation college attendees where there isn't a history of support in the family just because they've never done it before. That process can be long and arduous, but when we get a family there, we know that the outcome generationally is worthwhile. Our second budget enhancement requests a new Deputy Treasurer of Financial Literacy and Security for the College Savings Program. So this position was actually created during the last legislative session through a bill that Senator Spearman passed, located in Las Vegas, tasked with the creation and implementation of the Individual Development Account Program and the work of the Nevada Statewide Council on Financial Independence, which was created during the 2021 legislative session, passed through Senate Bill 188. Once launched, the deputy would oversee the day-to-day administration of the council, individual development accounts, Nevada's Achieving a Better Life Experience, or ABLE program, and other financial literacy and security initiatives. Again, as we talk about investments and the work that we can do, we get a fair amount of questions about financial security. And financial security, financial literacy, et cetera, all of those efforts have been dovetailed in with our college savings department historically, I assume because there wasn't another place to put them. That work is much more significant than can be done as sort of an afterthought within the College Savings Division, which is why we're looking for a way to fund that program. And our third budget enhancement requests one new program officer for the ABLE, the Achieving a Better Life Experience program. Nevada ABLE savings programs allow eligible Nevadans, with disabilities to create a special savings account, as I discussed earlier. This position will act as a liaison between partnering institutions and organizations to build relationships and assist school districts, community groups, nonprofit organizations, other state agencies, etc., in creating increased awareness about the Nevada ABLE program, therefore helping a greater number of Nevadans with disabilities save for a better future. A little bit of history here. Originally, our office was charged with managing the accounts, but the actual marketing of the accounts and telling people about them existed in another state agency. Due to the work primarily of Eric Jimenez behind me, when we took over the office, there were 237 ABLE programs statewide. There are currently 3,173, an increase of 1,239%, which is, and this is the math thing, a lot. This program will allow that work to continue, and because it's not just about one-time programs like TOTS, it's about making sure that the families who could be benefiting from these accounts know about them. And then our fourth budget enhancement requests 8 laptops and 6 docking stations for fiscal year 2024, and Assemblyman O'Neill, nothing for 2025, so that one's right, per the EATS recommended replacement schedule.
Thank you very much. Okay, I will go to Senator Neal. Did you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So you discussed a little bit the statewide council. What is this new name? The statewide Council on Financial Independence. So what's the timeline of putting the person in place? And 2, what really are going to be the role of this new deputy treasurer to build these efforts and create this outreach in the South?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, thank you for the question, Senator. If approved, the office would seek to hire the deputy in fall or winter, right after the October timeline. Following onboarding, the deputy would begin in earnest with the design and implementation of the IDA program and the council, which sort of go hand in hand together in early 2024. First step would be to identify and appoint the 5 board members pursuant to NRS 422A-478, which we think will take about 60 days. Obviously, we'll look to find those people before the individual's hired. Council will hold the first meeting and do the mechanical things, bylaws, establish statewide priorities and strategies, and we think that takes about 30 days. After that, the deputy will research best practices and with other states and their individual development account programs to determine program design and necessary elements aligned with the council's objectives and priorities, 30 to 45 days. And the council will hold meetings to vote on the IDA design plan, delegate power, get feedback from stakeholders, et cetera. And then the big chunk of the work on the IDA side is to develop an RFP to go out to a vendor to manage the actual account piece, right? Not the investment piece, but the account piece. So allowing people to put money into accounts, allowing those accounts to be matched. I suppose I should mention from a 40,000-foot view thing, the goal of individual development accounts, right? Unlike ABLE accounts, which are focused towards individuals with disabilities, individual development accounts can be a wider group of individuals, generally income controlled, and would allow us to work with our banking partners and other institutions that wanted to support these types of programs, philanthropic or otherwise, to provide matching dollars to Nevadans who start to save. Right. One of the things that kind of constantly comes up is that the state's reliance, the individuals in the state, Nevadans' reliance on things like payday loans primarily have to do, at least at the beginning of that process, with a lack of emergency capital, with no savings, right? And so everything is okay paycheck to paycheck until it's not. And the goal of individual development accounts is to give people an opportunity to save in a way that is cheaper, right? They don't have banking fees, and they don't, or they shockingly smaller banking fees, right? And so all that work we think is about a 6-month process. You take all those and add them up, it's about a 6-month process until we're up and running. That's probably a little optimistic, but certainly within the calendar year after that position started, we'd be up and moving.
Madam Chair, can I have a quick follow-up, please? So I want to dive a little bit more into the financial literacy piece of the council part. So the Nevada State Financial Advisory Council that was created in 2019, what's the overlap, right, to the financial literacy work that was done in 22? And how does this new council really change the narrative on the outreach that's happening in high schools, happening within those communities? Because this has always been a consistent weakness. Getting a deputy won't necessarily change anything if it's not someone who's going to do the grassroots work of showing up on the sites to implement.
Treasurer Conan, for the record, and I could not agree more. And if you look at the work that we've done in the College Savings Division, we have shifted, Dr. Tia Mathis-Coleman has shifted that department so dramatically from this, hey, we'll take your call and sell you a product, to a, we are in the communities, talking to schools, talking to counselors, talking to church leaders, talking to union heads, talking to anybody who will listen to us about, here are the different ways that you can plan for, save for, and pay for college. And so we're going to use that model to make sure that that financial security work is done. The other piece of that, and I think you mentioned a piece of overlap, and I think that's real, right? We have a number of different state agencies who do different pieces of financial literacy work, right? We are focused primarily in that council on financial stability. So the work to make sure that individuals have a savings account are prepared for downturns. We're bringing in, or we hope to bring in, philanthropic and corporate money through the Community Reinvestment Act, right? Our banking partners. That's going to be the real focus there. But you're absolutely right. We're going to need to make sure that we're coordinated with those other financial literacy and stability functionalities to make sure there's not overlap. There is a ton of overlap in financial literacy, as you know, right? There's 700 videos about how to balance the checkbook. We are really going to focus on the area where we think there's an opportunity, which is we have these accounts, you can sign up for these accounts, protect assets, right? And make sure that you're able to get through those financial periods of instability.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Hadagi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I actually had a question on the college savings program, but I have a question regarding IDA, so can I have two? Thank you. While we're on the topic of the IDAs, the individual development accounts, I'm Treasurer Conine. So I remember I was working with a nonprofit who had some individual development accounts that they did in partnership with Wells Fargo. And theirs had income restrictions. So they would do matching, 3-to-1 for tuition, 3-to-1 for like entrepreneurship if they were getting ready to start a business, and then 5-to-1 for home ownership. And they had income restrictions, which made it very, very, very difficult for families to participate. I mean, we couldn't get families, they had a minimum of $20 you had to save at least to be a part of this program, and we couldn't do it. So do you envision your programs having income restrictions, or will there not be? And is there or do you envision a minimum and maximum as well?
Treasurer Conan, for the record, so I'll answer the second part first. From a minimum and maximum perspective, and we found this in the 529 space, the lower you can get that number, the easier it is for individuals to access it. And in some cases, we're able to waive that number or backfill it with effectively a grant, right? So instead of, they got to come up with $75, but that $75 is coming from another partner. Okay. On the income side, there will be some level of income restriction on IDAs simply because we don't want an individual who's making $1 million a year to have a new way to take $5,000 and make it $20,000, right? That's not what the program's about. But the goal is to scale that so that we are able to most effectively help the individuals who need the most help to get the multiples that they need on that invested capital. The other thing that the program has the flexibility to do is, depending on who the money is coming from, right? Whether it's a state legislative money that has a specific purpose, right? There's a population that is being targeted, or if money is coming from a bank and there's a population they're trying to target, we can set up the IDA to offer different programs for different subsets of individuals. So if, in your home buying example, right? Individuals who are buying a home, maybe we have a real estate partner who wants to encourage that, and so they're going to increase the multiple if that's the use of funds. Maybe there's a philanthropic group that's very concerned about the foster population, and so they're going to increase the dollar amount for individuals coming out of foster care. The goal is for the program to be as flexible as possible so that we can meet not just the need, but also the sources of funding that could potentially come in.
Thank you, and I'm really excited about these. I think it gives opportunity for people to realize opportunities that they might not be able to, that might be out of reach for them otherwise. Okay, now with my original question, which was on the college savings program, Madam Chair. Okay, thank you. So I know you had mentioned that I'm looking at your slide, and that the new position is going to be located in Las Vegas, and it's one of its main roles is going to be doing outreach to Nevada communities to increase enrollment. Do you guys currently have someone doing this position? Has there been someone doing it statewide? And now, with the addition of this position, is there going to be coverage throughout the state? So will there be someone doing outreach in the north, rural, and southern Nevada?
Treasurer Conine for the record. So we have an individual in northern Nevada who does this work. They're based in Carson City and they travel around. We have a team in Las Vegas specifically doing this, navigating this kind of one-on-one work that's based in Las Vegas, but they also travel around.
Thank you very much. Assemblyman Hafen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Treasurer Conine, first of all, the ABLE program, I think you and your staff have done an amazing job with. I'm really proud to be part of this body that's helped fund that. And on that, you had mentioned the TOTS grant program. Is that program going to continue, or did you say that was just a one-time appropriation?
So the TOTS program, Treasurer Conine for the record, thank you for the question. The TOTS program, which stands for Transformative Opportunities for Toddlers and Students. Look, in the ballpark. We're a little acronym heavy. They're free, Assemblyman O'Neill. The TOTS program was funded with a one-time allocation of ARPA dollars, right? And the $10 million started at 5. Added an additional 5 through the IFC process, and then added a $2 million slug specifically for individuals in foster care. Program has been remarkably effective, we think, at getting dollars to individuals who needed them the most at a time of crisis. But our funding stream was a one-time funding stream, right? It was intended to be a one-time funding stream. Certainly, if this body and the governor wish to create a TOTS program going forward that could provide some stability to those families, we would be completely in favor of it and would be happy to administer.
Thank you. Madam Chair, just a quick follow-up.
Go ahead, please.
You'd mentioned that we had added some more during the IFC. Are there still funds available, or have all those funds been distributed?
Treasurer Conine for the record. We have distributed the majority of the $10 million that went to the broader individuals with disabilities population. There are a few individuals from a paperwork perspective that are still outstanding, but all of that money is accounted for. To give some idea, right, that's around 2,000 kiddos. There was demand for more than double that. Right? So we know that there are more families out there who need this work. On the foster care side, that is a longer process given who is responsible for the child, but also who has financial control over the child's assets. And so we're working with the counties to make sure that that program can get out the door.
Thank you, and thank you guys. Keep up the great work. I really do appreciate it, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Assemblywoman Backus.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And Treasurer Conine, you may have just answered this, but knowing that those additional funds for the additional 2,000 grants, you're seeking the new position for the ABLE Savings Program, what additional workload has been experienced as a result of increased awareness about the program as a result of the grants funded through ARPA and the coronavirus state fiscal recovery funds?
Treasurer Conine, great question, and this is something that happens every time we do some good work. It creates sort of more good work, which is wonderful. We see it in unclaimed property, certainly, right? Every time we're able to return a couple of $1 million in a day, then that gets some attention, and then we return a couple of $1 million more another day. It just increases the volume. On the ABLE work, it hasn't just been the getting the families through the initial TOTS program. It's on working with those families to make sure that they continue to use it as a vehicle, right? So that TOTS just wasn't a, here's $5,000, thank you, good luck, right? But here's $5,000, now you have this ABLE account, and look at all the other things you can do with the ABLE account. We had our, a lot of you know Jack from Jack's Popcorn, who was one of our first interns in the Treasury, and Jack uses an ABLE account so that his business can continue to survive without threatening the other resources that he and his family need, right? And so we want to make sure that more families know about that. The great thing about TOTS is it just called a lot of attention to a program that for a long time nobody was paying attention to.
And Madam Chair, may I ask a follow-up
Please,
regarding
go
funding? And it was noted that the funding, there was going to be from transfers from the College Savings Endowment Account as an appropriate source of funds for the new program officer position. I take it there's another need. And so what other funding sources were considered for this new position?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, we generally try not to go for general funding sources when other funds are available. The College Savings Trust Fund is very robust. We've done quite a good job there. And so when we're able to look at ways to expand opportunity for Nevadans, we usually start with the College Savings Trust Fund and end at the College Savings Trust Fund.
Thank you very much. Assemblywoman Kasama.
Thank you, Chair. My question was on the IDA, the Individual Development Account. I just had a thought when you mentioned about the match. Are the dollars for the match coming from the state, or you were talking about other groups of people? So are you trying to get private companies to do all the match, or will there still be some state match?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, while I believe there might be some legislative work to try and create matching dollars, our work is focused on the administration of the program, certainly, but on going to get philanthropic and corporate philanthropic dollars to fund these programs.
So there's no state matching. It'll be
Not in our budget, ma'am.
private. Oh, okay. All right, you mentioned that. And then, just in general, I think it's amazing what the state is doing with literacy training, particularly in the high schools. I'm so proud of our state, and I think it's great. Unfortunately, I didn't get that from my parents. And I think it does give people a great head start if they can have that as early on in life as possible. So I think our state is doing amazing with that. Be interesting to see if we can get the participation in this account. If so, I think it'd be good. Again, I think some of my colleagues have mentioned, the concern is the participation. But in general, anything we can do to help with financial literacy is crucial. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, seeing no more questions, the next budget item, 1094, is also not agendized, but we will listen to the information. Thank you, and then we'll move on.
Treasurer Conine, for the record, we don't actually have anything prepared on 1094.
Okay, well, then it
but we're
even
happy
works
to.
better.
Perfect.
All right, go ahead, please.
Well, only one free one. I didn't want to get everybody too excited.
Well, you know what? I want to give you a bang for your buck. Go
Yes, ma'am.
ahead.
Our fifth and final budget account with enhancements is 3815, everyone's favorite thing, unclaimed property. State Treasurer serves as the administrator of the Unclaimed Property Program. The Unclaimed Property Division currently safeguards more than $1 billion in unclaimed property belonging to individuals, heirs, or businesses who have, at some point in time, resided or did business in the Silver State. The program ensures that businesses and government entities report and remit unclaimed property in a timely manner, and the statutory authority here is NRS 120A, spot 025, and NRS 128, spot 620. Each year, businesses and government agencies turn over tens of millions of dollars of abandoned property in the form of cash, securities, and tangible property to the Unclaimed Property Division. This property is held in unclaimed property's custody, until it can be returned to its rightful owner or heir. Since owners never lose ownership of the property, the state must maintain custody of these assets in perpetuity. The Unclaimed Property Division operates in two primary work groups: money in, which is the holder and audit work, and money out, which is claims. The claims team is responsible for receiving, reviewing, and approving or denying submitted claims. They also process, hold, and auction physical property, which is received in safe deposit boxes, the proceeds of which are credited to the box owner's account. The holder team is responsible for receiving and processing reports and payments that are submitted as unclaimed property. Businesses in this context are referred to as holders, as they are holding other people's property. The audit team is responsible for managing contracted outside auditors, performing compliance reviews, and assessing and collecting penalties and interest for reports and property that were submitted incorrectly or late. E125, our first budget enhancement, funds and creates a new class series for the Claims Process Officer 1 position and associated costs for the Unclaimed Property Division. Position will be located in Las Vegas and will provide necessary support to the Unclaimed Property Division in aiding the program in reviewing and processing claims to return money to its rightful holders. The position is needed due to an increase in claims requests, which I believe is probably my fault, and I'm sorry. The department will be submitting a request to the Department of Human Resources to reclass the Administrative Assistant 3 position, grade 27, to this newly created Claims Officer 1 position, grade 30. So functionally, we have massively increased the amount of outreach and property out in the Unclaimed Property Division over the last few years. To date, we've returned, since January of 19, $184 million of unclaimed property, which is the most returned over that period of time in history, and it's not close. Every time we go and talk about unclaimed property, we get a few 100,000 searches more than we would get on a typical day, which is wonderful. We have also, thanks to the work of this body, increased the ways that we can reach out to individuals. In the last legislative session, we were able to create a process, and this came up during the pandemic. We were able to take the list of everyone who had filed for unemployment insurance and the list of everyone who had unclaimed property. We found $10.2 million owed to Nevadans who had filed for unemployment insurance. That was great. And then we went to cut them a check, and we realized we couldn't, because unclaimed property has always been a receptive process. You reach out to me, we check to make sure it's your money, we send it back. But in this case, we knew that these individuals not just had the need, but also were the people that they wanted to be. So with your help, last legislative session, we changed the law. So now we can just send them their money back, which is what we should have been able to do all along. In this legislative session, you'll see a bill come before parts of this body maybe about unclaimed property, which will allow us to work with other state agencies to get, say, individuals currently receiving EBT benefits, SNAP benefits, individuals currently receiving WIC, individuals currently getting restitution, individuals who are incarcerated, et cetera. Pick any list of individuals that we have, state police, and run that list through unclaimed property. And when they have unclaimed property, return it to them. This is not our money and we should give it back. Now that work takes people. Our claims team is wonderful, but they are deeply, deeply, deeply overburdened in the number of claims that are coming in. And in order to make sure that we meet both the statutory requirements and, frankly, the speed at getting dollars out the door, that position will help there. E126, our second budget enhancement, funds the reclassification of the two existing administrative assistant 3 positions, grade 27, to the newly created claims officer class, grade 30. This position is not in the governor's recommended budget. However, we believe it's vitally important to the continued improvement of reuniting unclaimed property with its rightful owners. Creating a new class series will better align with the advanced level duties required of staff in reviewing and processing unclaimed property claims. Staff are required to examine and investigate public, legal, property, tax, death records, trust records to identify assets and their rightful owners. And this agency, just like every other agency that deals with the public, is dealing with an increased level of fraud attempts, an increased level of identity theft, et cetera, et cetera. It simply is, there are plenty of bad guys out there, and they've realized that unclaimed property is a great place to try to take a shot. We are stopping them from doing that, but we could use some additional help. E225, our third budget enhancement, funds the ongoing expense for fiscal years 24 and 25 related to vendor upgrades of the database and software system that is used to receipt, track, and process all unclaimed property, monies, safekeeping, securities, etc. The unclaimed property program, as a result of the upgrade, requires dedicated server space, server licenses, and disk storage to maintain the program's database and to run the upgraded system. In fiscal year 2023, we had 2 servers, 2 SQL Server licenses, and some other things, and this is the continuation of the EATS costs for that. E710, our fourth and final budget enhancement, equipment replacement, funds replacement computer hardware per enterprise per EATS recommended 5-year replacement schedule. That's 8 laptops and docking stations for fiscal year 24, 5 laptops and docking stations for fiscal year 25. Not stealing any of those, alas.
Thank you very much. Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Treasurer, good to see you and your staff here. You guys have done an amazing job on unclaimed property. Every time I see you, I search for unclaimed property. I think I'm the only one who hasn't found any in my own name, but if there are other Yeagers out there, there are a lot of Yeagers on the website, like 14 pages worth. So if that is your last name, please search. You'll probably find something. And to that point, you've done a great job expanding that program. And I'm not surprised that you get hundreds of thousands of requests every time you talk about it. I'm just wondering, in terms of the current situation, is there a backlog right now? Are you currently able, with the staffing you have, to comply with the 90-day requirement under statute?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, there absolutely is a backlog. And the backlog exists in sort of 2 ways. One, the process of getting claims through the system, and then just mechanically, the current process in getting checks out to individuals. So currently, unclaimed property is a completely check-based process. So even if you go through Fast Track, which is a program for claims that are under $5,000, where the owner is very clearly the owner, right? We're not dealing with an heir situation or a second uncle twice removed. It's it's Bob's property and Bob's asking for it. And it's, say, $500. We can put that through Fast Track, which is an automated process which doesn't require much manual touch until we get to the check process. And then our team and the ABLE team and the controller's office have to do this. Now, generally, that works out just fine. But when we have these lumps of unclaimed property that go through, right, where there's just hundreds of claims, thousands of claims, more than we would generally expect, that can expand the process. Sort of by definition, in any subset of any 100 claims, right, there are a couple that are going to be fraudulent, there are a couple that are going to require a lot of work, and most just sort of pass through. And so our work is kind of twofold. One, make sure that we have the staff to make sure that we're continuing to stay within the statutory requirements, which we certainly are, but also make sure that we continue investing in our technology and working with our cash management division to make sure that we can get dollars to folks electronically, which we haven't done in the past, but we're starting to explore the best ways to do that because, one of the things we hear pretty often is, oh, I've got $2 of unclaimed property, but what am I going to do with a $2 check? Right? And so we want to make sure we can get those dollars back to people individually and expeditiously, and that means not cutting them a check. Also, that will save the state a not insignificant amount of money on postage and check printing, which I expect the controller would appreciate, since most of that comes out of his budget. So yes, we are within the limit, but we need to do more. And I can just take a moment to credit our unclaimed property deputy. Deputy Anthony is down there, and her team does an exceptional job of making sure that we get this money out as soon as possible. But we'd like to be quicker.
Thank you very much. Assemblywoman Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. My question isn't really about the funding. It has more to do with some of the unclaimed property. Let's say that there is somebody that has some unclaimed property that they do not want, for whether it is because it's $2 or because of other philosophical differences as to why it was given to them. Is there a process for that money then to be donated back to the state or to a group or to another entity, or is it just always going to be like 14 pages of Jaegers? What's it going to be?
Treasurer Conine, for the record, we find the 14 pages of Jaegers to be comforting, but functionally, we keep the money in perpetuity regardless of amount. Now, that does mean that you end up with, a 17-cent thing. Right now, the process is if an individual would like to donate that money into the education account, right, and basically into education spending, they can do that, but they go through the claims process and then sort of designate that money to that location. We're looking at ways that we can potentially make that quicker, right, and give them some additional opportunities on where to donate it. But again, because we have to go through the process of making sure it's their money, the first part is. Deputy Anthony might have some more specific numbers here, but that is a process that is used generally infrequently.
Thank you. And so let's say that actually the money is from somebody that has been deceased. Are their family able to provide the trust then, or a way to show I am the power of attorney and this is where I'd rather it go?
Treasurer Conine, for the record. So of a vast amount of the sort of more difficult claims, or claims where it is not the original owner of the property claiming, it's someone down the line, a great grandson, a second nephew twice removed, right? And that's where our ABLE team in unclaimed property has to take the time to determine, is there a trust? If there is a trust, what are the rules under the trust? If it was a business claiming property, is the business, did it dissolve at some point? Does it have owners, et cetera, et cetera? And so they go through that work. But yes, the point of unclaimed property, one of the largest pieces, is that that property might not be for the person who's no longer with us, but might be for someone else. And so I would encourage, anyway, when they're looking at unclaimed property, if unfortunately you have lost a relative in the past, you can go and look to see if they have unclaimed property and make sure that gets back.
Thank you for those questions. I'm proud to say that Thalia donated to the education fund, so.
Treasurer Conine, for the record, that was the one.
Yeah, there we go. Any additional questions? Okay, with that, I believe we are done. Thank you very much for all your presentations. Thank you for the information. And we'll move to the Controller's office. And we have Controller Matthews here to present his budget, which is budget account 101-1130. And Controller Matthews, when you are ready, you may go ahead.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Senate Committee on Finance, the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means. My name's Andy Matthews. I'm the Nevada State Controller. It is a real pleasure to be with you all this morning and back in this building. I just wanted to take a moment at the outset to say that it has been a real privilege over these past few weeks to get to know the team in the Nevada State Controller's Office. It really is an honor to be able to work every day with our dedicated and talented, hardworking public servants. So I just want to take a minute to thank our team in the State Controller's Office and to acknowledge the outstanding work they do, which will apparently now include a brand new task, which is to vigilantly guard our office computers from the Nevada State Treasurer. What we're going to do this morning is we're going to be pretty brief this morning in terms of our presentation. I'm going to start with just sort of an overview of the office, talk a little bit about how we're structured and some of our core responsibilities, and then what I'll do after that is to turn things over to the gentleman to my right, Chief Deputy Controller James Smack, who's going to talk a little bit more about the details. I know that this joint committee is made up of experienced lawmakers, so a lot of this will be familiar to you already. But the Nevada State Controller is essentially the chief fiscal officer for the state, one of our 6 elected statewide constitutional officers. We are divided basically into 4 sections: debt collection, agency services, financial reporting, and IT. And among our core responsibilities, we control the state's accounting system, process the state's daily transactions. We prepare the financial statement for the permanent school fund. We prepare the annual comprehensive financial report, which many of you are probably used to hearing referred to as the ACFR. Those of you who have been around for a while may recall it as the CAFR. The report recently got a name change. Same report, just words in different orders, as if we don't have enough acronyms to keep track of. We had to go and start messing with the ones that we're all memorizing. As well as the popular annual financial report, we conduct reviews of agency financial transactions. We administer the state's debt collection program, as well as the vendor database, and we ensure compliance with state fiscal and federal revenue laws, as well as, of course, looking for waste and inefficiencies within state government. So wide array of responsibilities, including some of those that are fundamental to the daily operations of our state government. And with that, I will turn things over to Chief Deputy Smack. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, James Smack, Chief Deputy Controller. I will move on forward here to SAP Smart 21 integration. Controller's Office is an integral part of this SAP implementation and will be a key to its overall success, especially with the financial piece that will be coming shortly to a theater near you, I guess. So we're working as far as that goes, hand in hand with the folks over at the Office of Project Management. The controller himself is one of the 3 voting members of the Executive Steering Committee for the project, and several members of our staff contribute their time and effort toward the finance module. We've been participating in workshops and steering committees. We've been very participatory recently in the so-called reboot of the project, and we've had several members of our staff that have been on several different teams calls and that, working to make sure that we have everything lined up properly for the continuation of the project. Several members of our staff have moved over to work in the Office of Project Management, helping to ensure the success of the initiative, and this will be a key focus for our agency services and financial reporting teams in the coming biennium. Along with the Controller's Executive Steering Committee member, the Chief Deputy, myself, involved in several aspects of the project, also advisory to the ESC. New accounting standards affecting financial reporting. Here's the part where you might want to go grab some coffee because this is a little bit on the, really, I mean, for a guy like me who just like is all I dream about is debits on the left and credits on the right. That's one thing, but as far as these standards go, they're not really thrilling in their own right. This is a list of standards that we are in the process of implementing. There are going to be 3 to 5 additional standards likely before fiscal year 25. This is always part of our ACFR process, producing the comprehensive annual report. There's always going to be standards. GASB I was hoping they'd stop at 100, but apparently they've gone to 101, so that's not going to stop. I also suggested that maybe they use the Roman numeral system, so it starts looking like the Super Bowl. That's coming up this weekend, but apparently no, they're not going to do that. So these are just the brief summary of the 5 GASB statements that we're in the process of currently implementing with this current ACFR, and there will be probably 3 to 5 more, and I'll be learning all about those in the coming months and years, I'm sure. So I especially appreciate GASB statement number 98, the annual comprehensive financial report. All that was that I guess they had the tug of war in the GASB on whether they wanted to call it the comprehensive annual financial report or the annual comprehensive financial report. I'm not sure how that throwdown went, but I'm sure with accountants, I'm sure it was exciting. Information technology, we have a 9-person information technology group within our office. The primary focus for our IT group, transitioning the Advantage, Dawn, Discover, Vista reporting programs over to SAP, doing away with all the out-of-date and soon-to-be out-of-support IBM hardware. One of the little ticking time bombs with Advantage is that the servers are now out of support. And for us to move everything over to new servers would be a monumental undertaking and could very well end up crashing the entire accounting system. So we are hoping that sooner rather than later we will have a system that we are gravitating to, and then all we have to do is maintain Advantage as a historical system. Transitioning internet site over to SharePoint, moving basically everything into the Office 365 Teams environment from the files that we have. The older files, which granted were great for me to look back on things that I did 6 and 8 years ago in these budget presentations when I was in the office before, so it did give me something to draw from, but the fact of the matter is we need to step up and smell the 21st century and get this all gravitated over. Replacing our bottom line check printing solution with an easier to use and manage solution, one with better support. We had one particular factor that took us 2 years to get the support for just one issue. So we would like to find a check printing solution that might be able to, maybe expedite that to 2 weeks or something like that. That would be nice. Upgrading our IP phone systems to work through Microsoft Teams. That will just save us money on just basically phone services and that within our office. And additional training. Training is kind of one of my big themes. I want to make sure that we get training for our IT staff, ensure our team remains on the cutting edge, responding to cyber threats, and help IT members become better educators for our SEO users, and additionally, better educators for all users, whether it be the new SAP system or the Advantage system or what have you. We want to be able to provide proper support to all the agencies that we service. Debt collection, fiscal year 2017, our office implemented the new debt collection system called NCIS, Nevada Collections Information System, for those of you that are not thinking that is named after the TV show. Average annual collections pre-implementation was $266,018 per fiscal year. Since the system came online, this average has increased to $1.285 million per fiscal year. So improvement of approximately 350%. That is pretty well settled at that number over the past 5 fiscal years. Since NCIS implementation, total number of state agencies we collected monies for have increased from 37 to 48. We do have 76 state agencies that place debt with our office, but most of that debt from the agencies we have not collected from is going to be aged debt. I can certainly get into the weeds on that, as how much aged debt we have on our total books. But most of that is like 10 years plus. So we're talking about stuff that goes back to the Great Recession and we could be looking at businesses and individuals that have left the state, businesses that are no longer in business and that type of thing. So we'll be looking at a pretty substantial write-off here in the coming months. Annual collection amount has stabilized over the past 6 years. I mentioned that before. Our office is working with Dieter on establishing a garnishment process, which should increase our annual average in its own right. This got started in January of 2020, and in March of 2020, there was something called COVID or something like that happened, and it kind of put the brakes on this. We have restarted this in January, and we are hoping to get this garnishment process up online by the beginning of the next fiscal year. Might be a little bit longer than that, depending on some moving parts as far as the interfaces we need to design and everything like that between our IT system and our IT folks and our debt collection folks. We did establish a web portal in 2019, allowing the debtors to pay their debts online via credit card. Prior to that point in time, we were able to accept credit cards for debts, but we had to take it by phone call, so that has reduced our call volume quite significantly. The one significant enhancement in our budget is one additional position provided for in the governor's recommended budget. This position is an accountant technician 2 for debt collection, hence why I put this slide right after debt collection. The position will allow our debt collection team to increase our collection experts, especially around establishing payment plans, negotiating debt settlements, and active collections. Another thing that my chief accountant for debt collection brought to my attention too is we've had a significant uptick in DMV debt that has come into our office. This person may very well be just managing that DMV debt and working to try and get a lot of that collected, because apparently it is a sizable number of files that have come to our office in the last couple years, and hence another reason why we have a 4-person operation in debt collection, moving it to 5 people. We're looking to increase our annual average collections by a minimum of 25%, just adding that one additional person. So what we're looking at in the spending for this position, and that overall spending would be fiscal year 24, 61,441, fiscal year 25, 84,811. But we're looking at increasing. If we increase our collections by 25% on a $1.25 million number, we're getting up close to $2 million. So we're hoping that with the thought process behind this is letting this enhancement in our budget pay for itself. And percentage goal is met or exceeded, which we'll talk a little bit about the goal on the next slide. We will consider additional positions down the road, but let's see what one position does first and see if we get the enhancement that we're looking for as far as our overall collections. And then maybe we'll come back to this body in a couple of years and say, gee, we've had some success with this. Let's look at maybe adding a couple more positions so we can get some more of this money back for our general fund and a little bit more money that we can actually recover that is owed to us by various entities. In summary, we will be a leading agency in the implementation of the new ERP system in partnership with the Office of Project Management and other stakeholder agencies. The success of this initiative is critical to success in financial reporting and agency services. Our debt collection goal will increase to $2 million per year from the 1.25 or so that we're at right now. That's based upon the garnishment interface with Dieter, adding some to that, and the additional FTE to the debt collection team. And we'll continue to work to provide those strong agency services to the agencies that we support, which are most of the agencies in the state in one way, shape, or form, and information technology services to the SEO team and stakeholder agencies, finding ways to save money through process improvements and advances in technology without sacrificing service. And that's our overall goal. We're always looking to find ways we can trim a little bit money here, trim a little bit money there but we still want to be able to provide the services and still want to be able to provide the things that we do for the state in regard to, I'll get an advantage. A few years ago, DMV was looking to implement a new credit card system, credit card carrier from Wells Fargo. We were involved in that in order to design and program the interface so that would seamlessly work with Advantage coming from the DMV information, so they didn't have to manually input all of those transactions. So that's just a small example of something that we do as far as an agency service. Lastly, quick mention, Assembly Bill 3. We have one bill presented to the State Controller. The State Controller is presenting Assembly Bill 3. This bill changes NRS 387.013, provide for the report on the state permanent school fund to be annual versus quarterly. The Treasurer's Office is supporting this as well. The change aligns our Office of Financial Reporting, where we're producing all of our reports on an annual basis, like we do with the ACFR and the PAFR. This change would save time and effort on our financial reporting team and still provide the complete results on an annual basis. And with that, the Controller and I would be happy to entertain any questions.
Perfect. We have some. Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Mr. Schmack, I'm trying to figure out how we could end up a transaction from DMV and then end up having to do debt collection on it? I mean, you either, is this a bad check or the credit card was no good and then why did we accept it? Question.
Yeah,
How
it
did
could be.
this happen?
It could be something as simple as a bad check, and a lot of this debt is also aged. So when you're looking at stuff that's coming over that's 8, 10, 12 years old, it's a little bit different dynamic than now, where most people do use debit and credit cards, and the debt will likely be less at that point in time because you're going to get the approval process from the debit or credit cards at that point in time. But there's other things to do with motor carrier and that type of thing, and some larger debts to come over as well, Senator. So, those are things that are billed by DMV to particular entities, and those would come over to us if it hasn't been collected after the 60-day period.
Okay, but a lot of these are aged accounts, and because typically now DMV requires, i.e. a debit card or.
Well, I don't think they necessarily require it. I think you can still pay cash. I'm not sure if you can still pay check at DMV or not at this point in time. I haven't actually done a DMV transaction for a couple of years, so
I still
not
write
positive.
them a check.
Well, if you still write them a check, Senator, if one of those checks happens to bounce, I will be looking for you directly.
Okay, I'll use your name. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. And Madam Chair, just for decorum, you don't have a problem with me answering the question directly from the member?
No, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
No, sir. Please go ahead. And Senator, don't use bad credit cards. It's just a bad luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Let's go to Assemblywoman Dickman, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you, Controller Matthews. I kind of miss you on this side, but so I wanted to ask about CAFR, or should I say ACFR. It seems to me that we heard in another hearing, and I don't remember which one, but that the CAFR is supposed to be, it's required to be completed in March. And in recent years, it's been getting later and later. As I understand it, was in June of last year. And so I was wondering if you could shed some light on why this is happening, what negative effects it can have on our state, and what's going to happen going forward.
Andy Matthews, Nevada State Controller, for the record. You're absolutely correct. Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman. There has been a lag in recent years in terms of when that has come out. I believe that as recently as a few years ago, that report was customarily finished as early as January, if not slightly before. And I know we've seen that get later and later. And I believe last year, you're correct that it was June when that report came out. I know that Chief Deputy Smack, who, as some of you may recall, served previously in his current capacity from 2015 to 2019, has some additional context, I think, that will help explain a little bit about how that came to be, and more importantly, what the road ahead looks like as we address that, which of course is going to be a very high priority. So, Chief Deputy.
Thank you, Controller Matthews. Chief Deputy Controller James Smack, for the record, and thank you for that question, Assemblywoman. The ACFR in the past 2 years has been issued on May 15th and June 23rd. Prior to that time, the six ACFRs or CAFRs, or whichever acronym you wish to work with for today, according to GASB Statement 98, though it's ACFR, so we'll go with that. If you were paying attention to the presentation, so just checking on that. In the previous 6 years, the ACFR had been released by no later than the end of March, which was meeting the guideline that's set down from various accounting, both from the GASB, from GFOA, and the guideline that we like to try to meet at this office is to try to make sure we have accurate and timely financial reporting. One of the things that's a little bit frustrating to me is that if I'm looking at a financial report from fiscal year 2022 and I'm not seeing that financial report until nearly the end of fiscal year 2023, that's a concern to me, and it could be a concern to our bondholders as well. So that is certainly something that we want to try to rein in a little bit more. It has been a combination of factors that are causing this. I think a lot of this, part of it is our own institutional knowledge within our own agency. But subsequently institutional knowledge in other agencies. People that our ACFR accountants have been working with in consort for 10, 15 years will suddenly retire, and their replacement will have really no idea what our office needs. So we are spending as much time now as being educators to some of the folks in some of these agencies as we are actually working on accounting and getting the report completed. So it's a little bit in training. That's part of the problem, and the significant drain on talent is this is just one of the things that the overall what I used to refer to as the silver tsunami. The folks that are coming that are up against close to their 25, 30-year retirement dates or what have you, and they're moving on to their retirement. They're sticking their toes in the sand in Tahiti or whatever they're doing, and the next person that comes along, there isn't a lot of overlap between those people. We don't have 60 days or 90 days that we can fit into our budget for that matter, versus the other agencies I think would have the same issue, where they'd be able to overlap somebody to actually give that person some on-the-job training and get them ready. And again, there goes my theme on training, get them ready to actually be able to step in once they have that position and be able to provide us with the information that we need in order to do timely completion and accurate reporting on the ACFR.
And I just wanted to add, Andy Matthews, State Controller, for the record. This process, of course, it's a step by step, right? And you have to do step one before you get to step two. And it all culminates, of course, with the audit of the report. But you can't do the audit until the report is completed on our end, and we can't report it until we start it. And we can't start various facets of this until we get the necessary information from the various state agencies. And what we've seen is that starting point, getting that necessary information in recent years has become later and later. But I just wanted to stress that we are absolutely committed in the Controller's office. Right now, we're head down to the finish line on this and making sure that we get this done as soon as possible. But in the aftermath of this year's ACFR being completed, we will undergo a very in-depth postmortem looking at this and to identify where those gaps in the process are. Identify where we need to get better. We're going to look internally on that too, into our own office, and see to what extent the holdup is on our end, and then where they may be in other state agencies. And we're going to be committed to working with those agencies to make sure that we all get better. And I want to also just be clear that this is not an exercise in finger pointing at the abilities or dedication of any individuals within our state government. It's been a systemic challenge, but that's why we're here. We're committed to meeting it and getting better going forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm appreciative that, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a report after you do that postmortem. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Assemblyman O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair. Also, I was almost going to say, Controller, I'm going to call you by your first name, I apologize. It's an interesting budget and a very conservative budget, it looks to me, so I'm impressed with it. The positions you're looking at, are they going to be located north or south? Was my first question.
Thank you, Assemblyman. James Smack, Chief Deputy Controller, for the record. The additional position in debt collection, which is the only additional position that we're adding, will be in the north. Our debt collection operations actually reside in the basement of the Capitol.
Very good. And then also, help me out. You used to have another report that came out of the Controller's office, and you mentioned it once, the popular annual financial report. And is that just redundant to your CAFR, or what's the importance of that?
Andy Matthews, State Controller, for the record. First, I'll acknowledge the irony of calling a financial report popular. That said, and thank you for the question. Yeah, the popular annual financial report, in a nutshell, it's basically intended to be a layman's version of the aquifer. Just for a little bit of context, this is a report, the publication of which is recommended, not required, but recommended by the GFOA. And in terms of the history here in Nevada, yeah, this is something that the State Controller's Office has produced going back several years across several controllers. I want to say at least the last 4 or 5 state controllers have done this. It has not been created in the last couple of years, but it's something that we intend to bring back. And the basic purpose of it is to take the aquifer and put it into layman's terms. The aquifer, as important as it is and as valuable as it is, those of you who have ever looked at one would probably acknowledge that it's not exactly light reading. This is not something you'd want to necessarily take with you to read on a relaxing, leisurely day at the beach. I mean, maybe you would, James, but typically it's something that is not that accessible or digestible to your typical person, and so the PAFR, the Popular Annual Financial Report, is basically intended to take that information that's in the aquifer and distill it down in a way that your typical Nevada citizen can understand it. I think this is really critical and valuable. To me, it goes to accountability and transparency. Our office is responsible for providing information on government financing, not just to the legislature, not just others in government, but to our state's tax-paying citizens. And I think it is a very valuable contribution to that effort to take that information and to provide it in a way that is much shorter than the very in-depth aquifer, and something that's a little bit, like I said, more tangible, more accessible, digestible. So that's something that we look forward to producing later this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Assemblywoman Kasama?
Thank you, Chair. A few kind of financial questions. It made me think when you talked about the annual financial report, and I know it was a while ago, tried to search on the state's website looking for the annual financial report. Eventually I found something dealing with it, but is that something we currently have that is more easily findable? In a very short version for our citizens, or will that be something that we will be working towards?
James Smack, Chief Deputy Controller, for the record. Thank you for that question, Assemblywoman. First of all of our historical aquifers can be found at controller.nv.gov, and there's a big flag right on the front page that says annual comprehensive finance. This acronym changes. It was CAFR the whole 4 years I was here before, and now it's ACFR. So I'm stumbling on this a little bit myself. So my apologies for that. But all of our aquifers through fiscal year 2021, I think going back, gosh, at least till the turn of the century should be there. And then if you want to go back into the older ones, I think actually Controller Matthews has the 1870 aquifer sitting on a shelf in his office somewhere too. So if you're really interested in seeing how much our state government has grown since 1870, you can look at that, because it's a very short comprehensive report at that point in time, and now it's something like 230 pages. So, but it is findable at controller.nv.gov, so that would be the controller's webpage, and you can find all the historical aquifers there. And also, I believe any of the popular annual financial reports that were produced will still be there as well. So, and I know that when Controller Connect former Controller Connect was in office, he actually incorporated the annual report, the PAFR, into the CAFR itself. So you could just, on those couple of years, just search for the aquifer, and the popular annual financial report starts at about page 6. So they are findable there. If you have any other suggestions on where we could put it out for public dissemination, I'd be happy to oblige that and look at that too.
Yeah, that's good. I'm just looking for the annual, the short summary for our citizens. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. One of the things that came to my mind when you're speaking about training too, and I think it's so important with financial transition, that I would encourage you put in the budget that there is a 30 or 60-day overlap. I think the legislature might look favorably on that. I would hope with my colleagues, because I think the time for somebody to get up to speed without training, particularly in the financial area, is a loss that would cost us more as a state than overlapping somebody for 30 or 60 days for proper training. So just a thought with that. And then finally, just, I'm curious with all the bank accounts that you're managing, and I know you might be short-staffed like other people, but how far behind on the bank recs are you? And are they current with, how many?
James Smack, Chief Deputy Controller, for the record. Assemblywoman, thank you for that question. The bank reconciliations, we're not behind on any of the bank reconciliations, but there were some errors in some over the past 10 months that we actually have we have contracted the former chief accountant for agency services, who is actually going through those and trying to get those reconciled for our ACFR at this point in time. So she's obviously done the job of doing the reconciliations before, did so for our office for several years while I was there before, and she is very capable of getting that done. I believe that it isn't as long of a backlog, and I can't get back to you on that on the exact numbers of how many months we are at this point in time. The last time I heard it was 10 months, so we're not that far. The reconciliations are done, but there's some balancing concerns that we're trying to work out between ourselves and the Treasurer's office.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional questions? I'll just add one. I think you touched on this, but does the controller anticipate the timely distribution of the debt recovery funds to agencies prior to the end of the fiscal year, should this recommendation be approved? If you could just touch on that a little bit more, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that question. Again, James Smack, Chief Deputy Controller, for the record. The agencies are getting their funds back. It depends on the agreement with the agency as to where the funds go. In some cases, the agreement with the agency is the funds are returned to the agency. In other cases, they are returned directly to the general fund. In other cases, they go into our debt recovery account for ongoing debt recovery operations, printing, sending out notices. We are still paying on the performance-based contract for CGI with the NCIS system, so part of that debt recovery account goes to that each month based on a total amount of collections and how much goes into the debt recovery account. So those do get done. That does get done timely. As we get the collections and the monies get returned to the agencies in a timely manner, I want to say within 5 days. So when we get the money gets back to where it needs to go as quickly as we could possibly process it.
Okay. Any additional questions from the committee? All right. Seeing none, thank you so much for joining us here this morning. We appreciate your team and we appreciate the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we'll close that budget hearing, and this is our last budget hearing, so we'll move on to public comment. And with that, due to time considerations, each person providing public comment will be limited to not more than 2 minutes. Please remember to state and spell your name and then begin your statement. You may dial 669-900-6833. When prompted, the meeting ID is 889-4077-5686. And press pound, and then when prompted for the participant ID, please press pound. I'll begin here in Carson City. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Kent Irvin, ERVIN, Nevada Faculty Alliance. Good morning, Chair Dundera Loop, Chair Monroe Moreno, and committee members. Along with our national affiliates, the American Association of University Professors and the American Federation of Teachers, we advocate for higher education as a common good and for making college affordable for students. The state scholarship and college savings programs are an important piece of making college affordable. Both nationally and in Nevada, state funding of public colleges and universities has declined, while student fees and tuitions have increased. In-state student registration fees at NSHE are still a bargain compared with other states. However, over the 15 years from FY 2007 to 2022, the total student fees and tuition per student full-time equivalent enrollment have increased by 22% after inflation, while state funding per student FTE has declined by 34% after inflation. The program is administered by the treasurer, like the Gwen Millennium Scholarship, the prepaid tuition program, and the 529 savings program are therefore very important for our students. They have our full support, including funding the needed staff. I have a small quibble about the name of the prepaid tuition program. According to NRS 396.5401C, tuition is defined as the extra charge for non-resident out-of-state students. According to the statute, in-state resident students are only charged fees, not tuition. Of course, until we get to a point of free higher education for Nevada residents, the distinction between fees and tuition is more of a legal fiction than reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any additional here in Carson City? Seeing none, I'll go to Las Vegas. I don't think I see anyone, so BPS, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Don Daraloop. The public line is open and working. However, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, so with that, committee members, this completes our meeting today. The Assembly has a meeting in room 3137 immediately following this meeting. And so have a good rest of the day, have a good weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. This meeting is adjourned.